Well, I'm delighted to be joined by David Cox, the Managing Director of ARLA. And David, obviously very important event tonight.
Indeed.
And I have to take my hat off to Kate for bringing this all together. What was your sort of overview of her key findings?
I very much welcome Kate's report. I suppose one of the biggest problems we've got in the sector is that there isn't a great deal of statistical data that's pulled together. We've got an awful lot of indices, an awful lot of data coming out of the ONS and various other organisations and bodies. It's not being pulled together, which leaves politicians, policymakers in the government departments torn as to their ability to make evidence-based policy decisions. And at the moment we're having an awful lot of myth-based policies are coming out. We see it in the run-up to the general election at the moment with calls to ban letting agent fees, that tenants want 3-year tenancies. You talk to letting agents on the ground, tenants don't want 3-year tenancies. They want the flexibility. They want the ability to stay for 3 years if they so choose, but they don't want to be tied in from day one to a 3-year tenancy.
Indeed, and one of the trending topics on Property Tribes as we speak today is rent controls, and that was one of the things that came out in Kate's report, that actually they could be potentially very damaging to the private rented sector and actually put a lot of landlords off and wanting to exit.
I think it would be a massive blow and a huge step back for the sector. If you think back to the early 90s, 91, 92, the sector was at its smallest really since records began, at around 6-7% of the property market. And that was because we'd had decades of crippling rent control. It was the legislative and the regulatory liberalisation through the Housing Act 88, and particularly no-fault possession under Section 21, combined with financial liberalisation and the creation of the buy-to-let mortgage in 96, that is what has allowed the private rented sector to go from its smallest size ever to now the second tenure and the fastest growing tenure in the housing market.
Absolutely. And I think the other really good thing to come out of tonight is that we can show as a community that we genuinely care about tenants and the private rented sector, and that the good guys are working together to improve standards.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Today we had an awful lot of industry figures, but very much at the professional end of the sector. What we've seen with this government, and probably this government more so than any previously, is they're trying to find legislative solutions to specific problems rather than looking at the root cause of the problem. And really, the root cause of all the problems in the sector at the moment is that it's largely unregulated. We've been talking about agency fees. ARLA, RICS and NALS have recently done a joint survey of our members. On average, professional agents charge £202 in fees to tenants. I've been defending letting agent fees today on the television, and I've been hit with £800, £1,200 per tenant. And it shows the difference between the regulated and the unregulated market. And what we need really is wholesale regulation of letting agents to create a level playing field. Because the people here tonight, members of ARLA, of RICS, of NALS, shouldn't be seen as the gold standard. We are talking about people's homes. For a landlord, it's their largest investment after the house they probably live in. And for a tenant, it's their house. Should the person that they're giving their home to not know what they're doing? Of course they should, which is why we need the wholesale regulation of the sector.
Absolutely. And just to finish then, really, there's a lot of anti-landlord, anti-lettings agents sentiment in the media, as we all know. I think initiatives like Kate's and us coming together like this can all help give a much more positive view of what we do.
Absolutely. It is noting and explaining to the media, to the general public, that these horror stories that are great make great television, great entertainment, are the tiny minority of the sector. The vast majority of landlords are professional landlords, the vast majority of letting agents are professional agents, but a tiny minority brings the whole sector into disrepute, and what we need is to get rid of that minority out of our business.
Hear, hear. Well, that's a good note to end on. Thank you very much for joining us, David.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Thank you.